Welcome everybody to another edition of LC Lowdown. Today, my guest is Dave Burchett out on the East Coast in Virginia Beach. Dave's been with Caliber for quite a while, and we are so excited to hear all about what's made him so successful and the team that he's built for us. That has just been a phenomenal story over the last couple of years. So Dave, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you very much, James. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
I am known for my tough questions. I think, 60 minutes or, maybe I should have been a debate moderator, but in any event, get ready. You're going to keep you on your toes. So what the whole world really wants to know more than anything is, how did you get in? How long have you been doing this, and how did you get into this crazy business?
Wow. I say this, or I have this question to recruits a lot when we're sitting down to get to know them a little bit better. And it's probably the same story as everybody else. Nobody goes to college and comes out of college, or very rarely, or very few people do it. So I'm going to be a loan officer. Right. So I backdoored my way into it. I was in the Navy from 1990 to 97. Got injured a couple of times, so ended up getting out in 97 timeframes. And I was playing lacrosse at the same time as being injured. Imagine that. And I was playing with a couple of buddies of mine that just graduated law school, and they said, "Hey, we're going to open a law firm and do real estate closings." And I was like, "Well, I'm getting ready to go back to school. That sounds fun." And started with them probably 2 weeks after I had gotten out of the military, and started searching titles across this lovely state of Virginia. They told me they would pay me $50 for every one that I went and did. So you can imagine I wore a car out. It's a little bit different than the money I was making in the military. So I try to do as many as I possibly can. Funny story is I actually put 70,000 miles on a car in 1 year, going from courthouses to courthouses throughout the state of Virginia. So I wore a car out in 1 year.
Yeah, Carvana's not buying that car.
No. So it kind of transitioned from that into the settlement side of it, where I could look at a HUD statement. It made sense to me what the client was doing, doing a refinance or a purchase, or how the loan officer sold the deal. Because if I was doing 6 or 7 of these closings a day on the road, I really had to know how to explain them. So I got familiar with all the documents, and I remember the people at the law firm like, "What are you doing? You obviously love the number side of this. Why are you staying on the title side of this?" And so I looked under the hood. I went to Wachovia. I talked to a buddy of mine there about probably 12, 13 years ago. And I was nervous about it because I didn't know anything about basis points and how the money was made. I just knew that I saw some people doing well around me, and I jumped into it. Ended up doing 15 million my first year. I wore out that path between my boss's office and mine. Funny story. He always said, you can email me or call me. I was like, oh, I need to lay eyes on you, man. I need to know these answers. I can't. And I did. I just thirsted for that knowledge, and then being an athlete at one time in my life, I looked around and there was people doing more than me and better than me. I can't have that. Right. That really started that trend starting to go, and seeing your name go up the leaderboard, and so
it's addicting to this day.
It is. And I've been chasing somebody on the West Coast now at my level for some time. I'm still chasing them. Right. So it is. It's still the same thing. It's still competitive, but more so, it's the products we're delivering to the customer at the same time. And I think if you can tie that in, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I don't think I'm built for it. So.
Well, what I found fascinating, and I had, had the privilege of hearing that story before, and what really brought me to it is a couple points. Number one is, the fact, as being in the military, right, as a veteran, and being able to, the story there is inspiring for a lot of individuals that have to make that transition. And not just did you make the transition, but you did it and just have, absolutely killed it and done a tremendous job. So that to me really hit. And then number two, right, is just your competitiveness, which you've now taken. You've had, yourself, you've got a great career, but now you've really taken a different path of building, I'd say building a team, but really a market, right? I mean, you took a market that Caliber was barely on the radar, and now it's one of the top markets in the country. So can you take just a little bit, what on these chats, we talked to, LCs who have smaller teams, bigger. You have a big team, and you really took a very deliberate approach to build that team. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think, when I was a branch manager at Wells Fargo, was a branch manager at Wachovia before the merger with Wells Fargo. And it was the typical, we were all under one roof. You had 10 to 12 LCs, you called how many ever basis points, all of them. And I remember listening to a lot of my national sales managers, you included, John Bianchi before you, and from Wells and Wachovia. And the piece of hiring people and being residual income always set with me, so to where you can always put and try to make successful a group of 5 to 10. But if you were really able to recruit and develop and hire, that piece would stick with you for a career. If you were decent at leading a team, and obviously it's extremely hard to do, especially in these times. So that piece always stuck with me. So when I joined Caliber, that was my vision, was like, okay, I could put one office down here and we could really penetrate the market in Virginia Beach, or we could open up smaller locations. Since brand recognition was important, nobody really knew who Caliber was here. So I really needed more signage, more people throughout the 7 cities here in Hampton Roads. And, now we reach from the Outer Banks into Richmond with 7 locations. But that's what's really helped grow that. And developing managers with inside of each one of those offices has been extremely important. Finding the right people to help that bought into what my vision was, and was also their vision. And we used a lot of what their visions were to help develop what mine might have been to start. So bringing the right people and right management team on and the right LCs on has really made it a lot easier for me to sit back and watch it grow. I mean, I just don't think this area was ever intended to have one office doing 20 million out of it. And I don't think that was what the company wanted me to do when I joined.
No, it's a fascinating story because it is, the Hampton Roads area. And now, like you say, Richmond all the way to the Outer Bank. I mean, it's a great market, a huge market. And I think the way you attacked it, more importantly, going out and finding the talent that you did, right, from the competitors. And in a lot of cases, you picked them and had been watching them and really, made the right decisions. And what I give you a lot of credit, Dave, is coming in and empowering these folks, right? You in a lot of cases, from the way you manage those relationships, it's almost like partnerships that you've built with these folks, and they appreciate that. And I think, all the more reason they feel empowered to grow. And so it really is a great story that I know we're still like in the second inning of what it can be, but it has been fun to watch. And you as a leader, I give you a lot of credit for A, the vision, but B, going and finding the right talent to execute it and getting it done. I mean, it's truly remarkable.
Yeah. Well, like you said, if you find people that are smarter than you at this, you need to bring them on. And the managers and the team I have around me are smarter than me at this. So
I feel that every day, right? I mean, it's one of the early things you learn. Hire people who know more, are smarter than you, and you win all day.
Absolutely.
So tell me about, obviously from an operations perspective, the structure you just met makes a ton of sense for attacking a market and growing the share as you have, but that can throw a number of challenges operationally. Is there any tips or how that you have as you have the team working with your processors and underwriters that make it so successful?
Obviously, Daniel Carr I brought on as a partner who's incredibly gifted at the operations side, not only at the management side with me here, but in the operations side. And that's something we watch very, very closely on a day-to-day basis, is pipeline management. And probably trial by fire when I was at Wells Fargo and the world, went to 3.25% interest rates, and Hampton Roads had the biggest market share of VA loans. So, I know what capacity issues look like.
Right.
A lot worse than what we've dealt with. And we both have been through that. The operations portion, I've been lucky enough to hire pretty much all of our processing staff that goes along with us. And now, as you and I have discussed, really helping to bring in some great underwriter staff for our teams here as well. And I think that they're probably the most important part of the team. You know, I call them the center of the wheel. They're the spokes that hold it all together. They're the ones that have the longest customer touch piece, the processing piece than we do, you know, so we have to be a pretty clean handoff and a quality person to do that. So managing that with our processing managers that we have, I think we have the greatest staff of processing managers around, is a day-to-day grind. You know, it is tough when they're not in the office. It is tough when, you know, you have people that are sitting home and have to be not only parent, but teacher as well as processor. I mean, I can't imagine doing that job. And thank God, you know, I'm
both.
Yeah, thank God I have a partner here at home that's a lot better at that than me. That's for sure. So yeah, it's just being, you know, aware of where they are, what they're doing, their capabilities, and knowing how to work with that. And then hopefully the team setting the expectations up front, understanding how hard that job has got to be for them right now.
One of the things that I observed, I can't remember if it was on a call or email, that it seems with your teams, the way they interact is really you and really all of your leaders promoting the quality of the app going in and
Sure.
really making sure that you know, again, the story's told, the details are there, and trying to get it through, you know, underwriting, you know, being a one and done or making it easier. And I think that's it's one of those things that I know you guys have focused on, and it sounds so easy, but you know, we all know it's challenging, especially with high volumes and whatnot. So I give a lot of credit to your team for how you've managed that.
We've, you know, it's something I discussed before, because when I was on the legal side of things, I took over for a processor that had to go out, and I tried to jump into a middle of a file that somebody had half processed and half not processed. Trying to create that story yourself is impossible.
Right.
So if we don't do it up front and they just have to look at it and try to piece together, especially when you're talking self-employed borrowers and the challenges that we have, you know, with overlays and what COVID has done to not just us at Caliber, but everywhere. It's an incredibly difficult job. And I think the sales team has to remember that sometimes. And I know they do, you know, and they have their own challenges as well. So it's a tough world.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you to think back, you know, on your career, as a lot of individuals will watch this, they'll think, you know, wow, you know, is it a straight line up, or how does it work? Is there a point as you reflect back where you were doing okay, and then all of a sudden you just made an adjustment either to how you did things or how you looked at things? Was there ever that time where you just made that tweak and then you saw your business really take off?
You know, probably two things. One is empowering the people around me, letting them do what they're best at. I've always been a strength finders kind of person. I've got many weaknesses and I'm really not good at doing them. You know, so I try to stay in my lane where my strengths are. I think the biggest thing when we came to Hampton Roads was, you know, planting the flag on the veteran-based lending, the VA loan itself, and walking in and saying, nobody's better than this, and we are.
Yeah.
And there truly isn't anybody in the country better than as a VA loan. And I knew if I threw that flag down and then let it flourish from there, that's where we were going to have our success. Anybody can show up to a meeting, a realtor function, and say, you know what, I've got every tool in the toolbox. I've got CPL, what we used to. I've got everything you need to close loans. I'm your guy. And I call it, you show up and throw up, and it just doesn't work. But if you go in with a spear and say, we're the best at this, and let it flourish from there, I think that's really what took off in this our area. But the overall answer is to empower and recruit the right people around you.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think you're aware that, and a large part to what your team has done, we recently moved into the number 5 spot for VA purchase lenders, right?
I did.
Yeah, that's I
will dote on my team a little bit with the number 1 area or branch VA lending in the country. So
that's right.
Extremely proud of them for pulling off that. That makes me very happy. Yeah.
So switch. You know, so we talked a little bit about operations, your model, your team. So, you know, technology plays such a big part of our world, and obviously you have to use H2O. We know that, but is there any other either tool, hardware, or a software program, or anything technologically that you or the team uses that you think has made things easier, or as some people always say, something you couldn't live without? Is there anything that comes to mind on that?
Website.
Yeah.
Driving business through the website, leveraging, day one certainty, leveraging the availability of using verification of employments and work numbers and assets, using the technology we have.
Yeah.
It's, from what I've seen, the best in the business, but I don't think from a whole perspective, and obviously you could talk to this better than I could, or from a company perspective, that we use it enough.
No, I agree. I was showing somebody today the website. If you Google, your name right now, I mean, it's out. Everyone knows the technology, but it puts the banner on the website, right? So whoever did it is always hitting back, right? It's just that simple stuff to promote all of our great loan officers.
Yes, I would say, and I'm not quite the producer. I still keep my hand in it that I was when we opened the area. And thank goodness I don't have to be, because I'm probably the worst one of them all.
I doubt that.
but and I tell you, if the simplicity of driving it through, 100% of my loans come through from Bolt. 100% go through there. And they go with me, and then everybody gets to see them from my assistant and my team that works on them with me to help them get them where they need to go. But no, and we preach that a lot, to leverage that, because it is a time saver. Now, do we still have people that probably handwrite them and put them in? I'm sure. There's people that are never going to stop doing that.
I think that's a good answer, though, because it's not our core, but again, you are seeing it more, and you're going to, as we look at the next chapter of customer involvement, that's going to be the key tool that customer has, as active conditions management.
Yeah, but I still like it from a customer perspective as well. My loan is through Caliber. I'm refinancing it, like I think everybody else on the planet is today. From the backside of it, though, to be able to go on my phone and pay my mortgage, it's so user friendly as well. So I can see it from both perspectives. The minute it's paid, I get emails, I get notifications. So it's really a worry-free system from start to finish.
Yeah, that's great. So, kind of carrying that theme, there's a lot of people in our industry that, look in the future and they say, wow, they're not going to need people. They don't need originators. Somebody's just going to you're going to go online and you're going to self-originate, riding a rocket or whatever you want to do. What do you think about the future of retail originations in the next few years in terms of what are the one or two things that you think evolve that a company like us needs to make sure that we're taking the steps to be ready for?
I answer this question a lot, especially with, for example, my son is now working for Caliber Home Loans, my business. So if I didn't have the security or didn't have the thought that we'd still be available, I wouldn't have asked him to follow in my footsteps with this one. The financial advisor word's a good example of that. Everybody had to figure out 25 years ago with algorithms and computers how they were never going to be needed ever again.
Yep.
And that just is not the case. When you're talking about somebody's biggest investment or their biggest bill or their concern or their biggest part of developing wealth, they want to talk to people. They want, even if it's over a telephone, they don't care. That puts that personal relationship, in front of them. They want to know who they can reach out to as things go sideways. I still think of it as when I originate a mortgage for myself, I'm still as nervous. I know this business pretty well, and I'm a veteran, and I know a VA loan really well. And I still question that I want to talk to somebody who's conducting my loan. So I don't think in the purchase side that we're going to lose that anytime soon. Unless there was something so drastically different between the origination platforms, like maybe it's 1% here compared to 3%, but we're never going to see that. So retail purchase side, I think the company's done the right thing. That's I know in our area it's 70-80% of what we do. I can't imagine that going away anytime soon for an internet-based rocket lending or what you may, whatever it may be. That point.
Well, you and I are on the same page, and I think what you're really saying is, look, the need for the advice, the human, and I think the financial advisor is a great comparison. because what has changed on that is, right, that they've just embraced the technology, right? They've made it easier for their clients to interact and get the latest and greatest, which is really the direction, you know, that we continue to invest in, right? Which is your consumers will continue to have, you know, an even better digital and enhanced experience on their app. But most importantly, that's just another thing you bring to them as you build your local referral relationships.
Yes, and I still believe that originating mortgages and choosing mortgages is an emotional decision more than it is a financial decision for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anyone that's written refis and handed 2 estimates to somebody will give you the same answer. 9 times out of 10, it's an emotional decision. Emotional decisions need somebody on the other end to comfort that.
Right.
Yeah. So if it, you know, so I don't think it's going away. I think the people or the company with the best technology to do what we've done, to walk them through to have the best of both worlds will succeed further than most. And
yeah,
you know, that's one of the reasons I enjoy the platform, because the technology is not cheap either. So
no, that's great. So a couple other questions here. As you think about, you know, there's a loan officer, you mentioned your son starting the business, so maybe this is the better way to ask it. You know, what's that one piece of advice for someone starting in our business that, you know, if they forget everything else you teach, they remember the one? What's that piece of advice you'd give?
Communication.
No? Yeah.
By far, communication.
Yeah.
Over communicate to your clients, over communicate to the people around you. I think as managers, we hear it more than often. The biggest complaint call that I've ever gotten in my entire career is they didn't call me back. So, and it happens to all of us. We all get busy. I get it. But it is. I've got 2 Caliber universities, my son being one of them, Rachel Hodges being the other one, that are starting with us or have started with us this past couple. And we talk about that communication, and we go over what estimates and what the customer wants to look like, what an emotional decision looks like compared to a financial decision. Really diving into the customer itself, getting to know these people. I can't tell you how many times in my career I've seen people take a deal that might not have been as good as another deal because they liked the person they were working with.
Yeah.
So it's extremely important that they like the person they're working with, to be personal.
Yeah.
Because we're still in the people business.
That's right. It still is. Okay, before we get to the really hard personal questions, what about mentors? Do you have a mentor? Is there someone that you look back and think this person really got me where I needed to be?
You know, it's funny, and I've had a couple of them. First person that got me into to the business, Bill Hitchcock, just because he was the first. He's still here locally and doing a job at one of our competitors, so we won't blow him up too much. I had one at Wells Fargo who I just had lunch with the other day, who's retired. Who had an extremely successful career every year at Circle of Excellence. And right now, no, I tell you they will, and I'm not going to blow up your head.
Well, you're now the mentor, right? That's what will shift.
But I do, and we do have a little saying around the office, and you haven't heard this, is I tell them, how would James do it? I'll take the hat off there. What would James do in this one scenario? So, so sometimes the level-headedness needs to be brought into the situation. So, so I'll take my hat off for that one.
That's great.
I know I was going to get surprised with that one. So.
That's right. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. So now's these are the hard questions. So,
all right.
If you weren't an originator, right? So when you got out of the military and you didn't have your initial job with 70,000 on the car and chasing the $50 per, what do you think you'd be doing if you weren't in the mortgage business?
Oh, I don't know. That is a tough question. Probably financial advising, something to do with the numbers side of things, or a gym teacher.
Oh, there you go. That we've not heard that one yet. That'd be cool.
No, that's what I always wanted to do when I was growing up, because obviously I didn't like school very much, and went in the military at 17, and I just was going to become a gym teacher, and I backdoored into this career. But that would be about it.
Okay.
I think I don't know. It'd have to be something I can't imagine doing anything. That's the hard part.
Well, then you like what you do. You enjoy what you do. That's a great point.
I love what I do. I'm crazy, but I love what I do.
So this one has been very fun. So what was your first paying job?
First paying job. Believe it or not, I went on an interview for McDonald's, and I'm the only person probably nationwide they didn't hire. At 15.
Wow.
And then I went to a grocery store and became a bagger out front of a grocery store.
Okay.
For like $3 an hour or something plus tips.
Yeah,
but I set the record. I set the record for the most amount of money made in one day.
Of course, with tips, right?
I ran. I was like, it was a contest. I told you.
That's right. That's awesome. Okay, so in terms of stress, right? Our business does cause stress from time to time. How do you handle that stress?
I guess it's I exercise, so that's a big thing in our household. My wife being a lot better at it than I am, but I try to get the body moving, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I would say golf, but that's probably more stressful than work. To be honest with you. Yeah, that's the most stressful. That's the most stressful sport. But I do enjoy fishing. That's one of my, So we've been lucky enough to have the boat behind the house. So if I get off at a decent time, be able to run out real quick. I do that. That's downtime I do enjoy.
Yeah, no, that's been, I was going to ask you your hobbies. I think you gave me hobbies too. So that's.
I did. Well, I mean, your hobbies
better.
Besides golf being the most stressful hobby you can have, but
no, for sure.
I think it's a little downtime, but I think working out would probably be the best way to handle that. Yeah,
no, that's great. So Dave, I will just tell you, this has been great, and just the insight, especially you're from the way that you've come to Caliber as really starting out and building not just a branch, a market, is a great story, and I know that will be inspiring. But I want to end by basically telling you that, this company, the growth we've gone through, I hope you step back and look at it and see, your imprints on it and what you've done since joining. And that's, one of the cool things about, having so many successful people such as yourself in retail is being able, to sit back and go, I built that, that wasn't here before. Here's what I did for this company. Here's the ideas. Who knows, maybe there's somebody, in another part of the country that's looking at their market now in the same way you will. And that to me is what's just so great about this company, but more importantly, just my thank you to you, because that is what this is about, we're about. And so thanks not only for your time today, but just the contributions and what you've done to help make this company so great.
Well, I appreciate it. And thank you for the support, because I know it was a little unorthodox when I kept asking. So I'm not going to stop asking, by the way.
I think that the term is just trust Dave. Trust Dave. So, well, terrific.
I'm 1 for 1, so let's just keep it at that. I don't know if I wanted to throw that one out there again.
That's right. Well, thank you for your time, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Pleasure, James. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Home Connection podcast from Caliber Home Loans. Please see the show notes for links to topics discussed in this episode, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.